Welcome to another edition of A Good Show. With me, Katina Anglin, as your host for this edition. In this segment, we'll cover some issues that we may not want to acknowledge exist here in this Cayman Islands at our hands, or even at the hands of our government. But oh, they do. First, we'll take a look at modern-day slavery in the Cayman Islands. Yes, modern-day slavery in the Cayman Islands. And then we'll take a look at the purchase of some electronic vehicles for the prison services, and we'll weigh both of these issues on the scale, and we'll decide whether or not these are good. Stay tuned with us here as we discuss these two topics on A Good Show. This segment of A Good Show is being brought to you by H. Philippi Banks Law. H. Philippi Banks is where you can turn to for all of your legal needs. Civil litigation, including probate and administration applications, guardianship applications, family law, criminal litigation, property matters. Visit H. Philippi Banks Law at philippibankslaw.com. Before beginning our first topic, modern-day slavery in the Cayman Islands, I want us to remember that Schedule 2, Part 1, Section 1, Subsection 2A of the Constitution recognizes our Christian values. We approach these two topics today from the perspective of the commandment given in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, and I will read that for you from the English Standard Version, ESV. And it says, "Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case for the widow." With that having been said, let us turn to modern-day slavery in the Cayman Islands and the plight of the caregiver, the construction worker, the security guard, and the domestic helper. Perhaps living in the Cayman Islands, one of the top 10 financial centers in the world, we think that the evil of slavery could never exist here for no other reason than we're rich. Well, think again, because evil knows no boundaries and evil never rests. Slavery is one of the worst evils known to mankind and has been with mankind since time immemorial. There is nothing that makes the Cayman Islands exempt from evil. Not even the fact that we declare that we are a nation of Christian values. You see, declaring that we are a nation of Christian values, but living like demons, doesn't make us a Christian nation. It just means that we are living in the illusion that we are a Christian nation because we are not living as Christ would have us to. But does that mean that Christianity itself is not existent in the Cayman Islands? No, that is not the case. The problem is that because we are not addressing the evil amongst us, evil continues to pervade and persist in our society. The caregiver in our community often looks after our elderly. Yes, there are many caregivers who are called nannies and they take care of children, and everybody thinks, oh, well, that baby is so cute and we're all in a rush to take care of the baby. But when it comes down to time to take care of the elderly, we're really not stepping forward for that. We would much rather hire a caregiver and have absolutely nothing to do with cleaning our elderly, many of whom are laying in their beds on their backs, unable to clean themselves. And so we don't want anything to do with that. We'll just hire a caregiver. And then because we hire a caregiver from a foreign country, and because the Cayman Islands dollar is worth $1.25 US, which then converts to however many dollars back in the country where they come from, we take on this attitude that, well, they should be grateful Because you know how much that CI dollar is worth back where they come from, whether that's the Philippines or whether that is Honduras or whether that is Jamaica. And so we worked them. We worked them 7 days a week, some of them. We worked them for 24 hours a day, some of them. And at the end of the week, some of them will get $150. $150 is a salary that many Caymanians don't want to come out and work for a day. We think that that is below us because we are Caymanians and because we are entitled to more. But yet, we choose to treat the people who care for our elderly like slaves. We work them 7 days a week. And then we tell them that they should be grateful because at least we're giving them something to eat. They don't even have to buy their own food in the house. They don't have to pay electricity and they don't have to pay water. And at the end of the week, they're going to get their pay. But we don't know what it is to provide care for our elderly because we have hired the caregiver. I dare say that this is wickedness. It is evil. It is modern day slavery. You are forcing and compelling another human being to work against their will because the truth of the matter is nobody wants to be on duty 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, much less 7. But who is overseeing it? It's nobody really overseeing it because we have an overburdened, understaffed, under-resourced work and labor department, and so slavery is hard to intervene in, but so easy for the perpetrator to execute. And who will they go to? Because the first thing that they're told is, well, if you go to immigration, I'm going to cancel your permit. You see, the permit system is just the document that we need in order to execute modern day slavery. We need to have a serious look at our work permit system because I can't understand why a top 10 financial center in such a modern, developed country should have a piece of paper holding over another human being, dictating to that human being that they cannot leave home because you have their work permit. That is not good. That is evil. It is wicked. And if you are one of the perpetrators, you need to stop it. It doesn't work like that. Eventually, everything that you have given out is going to come back to you. People don't leave their homes, they don't leave their families behind, they don't travel across the seas to get to this blessed Cayman Islands, this beloved Cayman Islands, for you to abuse them, for you to cause them to participate in prostitution, in thievery, in robbery, for them to have to send home everything and then they have to go fishing on the iron shore and deplete our marine life because you are treating them as a slave. But this isn't just happening to the caregiver in this country. This is also happening to the construction worker who works 6 days a week, sometimes 7, in the hot, broiling Cayman Islands hot sun that many of us run from. We get out of our car, we run to the door because we've got to hurry and get inside because we've got to get into the air condition. But you know, when you look at all these construction sites and you see the construction workers and you see the nationality of the construction workers who are on there, and I can assure you, I have yet to see a white, and this is not racist, don't draw me into the racist argument, I'm just putting the facts out there. I have yet to see a white construction worker working in the hot sun. You know why? Skin can't handle it. It's just the reality of the matter. That's why Africans were brought to the Caribbean, was because they were able to withstand the heat of the sun and they could endure for hours on end without feeding and without changing color, dare I say. But he works 9 hours for the day. He has the work start sometimes at 7 in the morning. He'll work for 4 or 5 hours before he gets a break. That's his first water break at around 11 or so in the morning. He'll get some 15-minute break at that time, then a half hour around about 12:30 or so for his lunch. And then later on in the afternoon, he'll get another 15-minute break before he leaves work at about 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And at the end of the week, he's lucky if he takes home $350 for all of that work. The incredible part about it is this, is that working in construction in Cayman at $6 an hour is far under the wages that you would make in other jurisdictions, but yet we're one of the top 10 financial centers in the world. It's some of the lowest wages in the world. So I know right about now there's probably some Caymanians saying, why am I advocating for work permit holders? Because it's the right thing to do. Because it's the good thing to do. You see, they are oppressed. They can't speak for themselves. Because if they do, then their work permit will be withdrawn by their employer and they'll be sent home, and they don't have the resources back at home. They don't have employment. They have children. They have aging family members, and they came here to work and to earn a decent, honest living, not to be a slave. But when it comes down with the plight of the construction worker, this isn't particularly being executed at the hands of Caymanian employers. This is at the hands of other foreign workers who have come here and they have opened businesses and they've gotten their trade and business license and they've started construction business because it is a very, very profitable business. And I don't condemn or criticize anybody who is smart enough to become an entrepreneur. I applaud people who take that initiative, who operate legally. They have all their business licenses in place and they have their pension schemes and they have their health insurance. They're operating according to law. But a part of that also is that you have to conduct your business in a humane manner. The law shouldn't have to dictate to you about health and safety at work, and it shouldn't have to dictate to you that a construction worker should be properly paid for his hours at work because of the nature of his work, and also because of the share profit margin that many of the developing companies and the contractors in this country make. Now, those are two: construction worker, caregiver, but yet there's also the security guard. He's got to ride his bicycle to get to work. He puts in 12, 14, 16, 18, some of them as much as 20 hours a day. And then they ride their bicycle back home from 7 Mile Beach to Windsor Park. They eat, they bathe, they change their clothes, they get an hour rest, and then they get back up and they start their job again. It's slavery. It's compulsory labor. It is wrong, it is evil, and it needs to stop. There are domestic helpers in this country who are working and earning $150 a week. I understand some of us just need a helping hand. But when we are employing a helping hand, that doesn't give us the right to abuse anybody. And if you cannot afford to pay a domestic helper fair wages for fair labor, then don't hire them. Hire an agency and pay them for a couple of hours to come in. And pay the agency for the couple of hours that they have come in to do the work in your home. But you can't have a domestic helper come to work at 7 o'clock in the morning because you need to leave at 8 because you have to be to your work for 9. And then a domestic helper needs to stay until 6 or 6:30 p.m. because by the time you get home through traffic, it's 6 or 6:30 p.m. and they can't leave until you get home. And then they have a hitch a ride to get home after for $150 or $175 for the week because you say they don't have much to do. But yet they have spent their whole day 7 days for the week, 6 days for the week, working for you. The evil needs to stop. It is not good. And I assure you, just as Christ said in Matthew, when you give good, give it well pressed, because it's going to come back. It's the same way that when you give evil, that too has a way of coming back. So, why continue to advocate for the domestic helper? Why advocate for the construction worker, the security officer? Why? Because until we start treating them better, we ourselves are not going to prosper. Because until we start contributing to higher wages, wages aren't going to get higher, and we're going to find ourselves always stuck in the rut. Because we help maintain low wages in this country by operating a slavery, modern day slavery operation in this country. Do people in this country have a hard time financially and can't afford to pay more? Yes, there are some who genuinely can't. I understand that. So why don't you take out a part-time helper permit, limit the hours for the day, and allow them also to do another share permit with someone else? It's a good alternative to it, and you will get the help that you need. They will get the income that they need, and we will have a healthier society. Let's work together to get rid of modern day slavery in the Cayman Islands. Stay tuned, because we're going to discuss next electric vehicle purchases for the prison in light of the inhumane living conditions that prisoners are enduring at the prison. Was the purchase of the vehicles a good thing? On the 31st of August, the Cayman Islands government quite proudly announced the purchase of 2 brand new electric vehicles for Northward Prison. So proudly, as a matter of fact, that the Minister for Home Affairs, the Honorable Mrs. Sabrina Turner, was, in her own words, over the moon with the order, which was long overdue. She also went ahead to say that prisoners using the vehicle will appreciate the upgrade. And of course, this was all about addressing our carbon footprint. So the government thought it was a good thing to purchase 2 electric vehicles for Northward Prison for escort purposes to and from the prison. Usually this is for stuff like taking prisoners to court, and also taking the dental appointments and to home visits and such. Those vehicles are already secured. They run on gasoline, and electric vehicles will also carry their own diesel and gasoline cost to the environment. So don't let nobody fool you about electric vehicles are clean. They cost an awful lot of diesel and gas to keep them charged. Go do some research on that if you think that electric vehicles equates to a clean environment. But let me just, for a moment, let me just talk a little bit about some of the conditions at Northward. Many of you may know that my own son is there at Northward, and so of course, naturally, yes, I do have concerns, but it's not only my son who is at Northward. The vast majority of prisoners at Northward are Caymanians. So I'm not the only Caymanian who has a son, a nephew, a cousin, a best friend, a best friend's child in prison who's a Caymanian. But even if they weren't the majority in prison, the fact remains that it's human beings that is in prison. So the conditions at Northward Prison, unless something drastically changed recently, are deplorable. In 2013, when the prison inspectorate did the inspection, some of the commentary that was made on the conditions of the prison said they were shocked by the conditions that they had found inside the jails. The cells were decrepit, the drug use was endemic, there was high levels of victimization and harassment. The inspectors who visited the jails said their findings were disturbing and recommend that many of the facilities should be demolished. Now, that is a report. What I just cited there was from a report from The Guardian back in 2013. There's also a prison inspectorate body here as well. Their report wasn't much different. But yet, 10 years down the line, we still have the same very prison with the same deplorable conditions, where prisoners have to scoot to the side when there's a downpour of rain because the rain will fall down through the broken roof and wet them in their bunks, in their cells. And let me just remind you, these are human beings that we're talking about. I remember once when a Caymanian died in prison in Panama, and we heard about the deplorable conditions of the prison in Panama. And the people here in Cayman said, oh, how wrong it was that people were being held in such conditions. Well, they're being held in deplorable conditions in the Cayman Islands too. But yet our government thinks that what prisoners would appreciate most are electric vehicles to drive to court in, and then they'd be returned back home to a hot cell, because until now they still don't have air conditioning. Yes, they are human beings. And just like how you will run from your car to get in the doors so that you can get out of the heat, because you are a human being experiencing the heat and the humidity. The human beings in Northward Prison are human beings. They are experiencing heat and humidity also. For many of them, what they have for a curtain to try to block out the sun from shining straight into their cell is a plastic shower curtain, which means then that they can't get any breeze. So we engaged in so much advocacy about the Panamanian prisons. And we speak with such disdain about the prison system in Haiti and everywhere else. Well, I just want you to know that it's not much different here in the Cayman Islands. And as one of the top 10 financial centers, we're bragging about having purchased 2 electric vehicles that somehow our prisoners are going to be grateful for, the vehicle that many of them will not ride in while they are forced to sleep and to live in decrepit conditions. This is not good. It is not good, it is evil. And the government can do something about it, but the citizens can also do something about it as well. Because the truth of the matter is this: they are our children. The vast majority of them in there are our children. The minority of prisoners in there are expatriates. The majority are Caymanians. They are human beings, and they are our children. Are they perfect? Are you? You see, there are 2 types of criminals also: those who were suspected and those who weren't. And of those who were suspected, there are 2 types of criminals: those who were charged and those who weren't. And of the 2 types of criminals who were charged, there are 2 types of criminals: those who were convicted and those who weren't. But that doesn't change the fact that there's a type of criminal who is never suspected of being a criminal. Who is a criminal, conducts criminal activity, but has just been so fortunate he's never been charged and convicted for it. So don't look down on those who've been charged and convicted for their crimes and think that they are less of a human being. They are human beings. They are our sons and they are our daughters as well. and they are human beings, and they deserve to live in a clean, healthy environment. But that is not all about the electric vehicles. You see, not only are the prisoners human beings, but when they're being transported in these vehicles, they're often handcuffed. Which means in the event of an accident or in the event of a vehicle fire, they are at more risk of losing their lives because they're in a secured vehicle and then they're handcuffed. Now, I personally, having done some research on electric vehicles, have great concern about electric vehicles, and one of the concerns I have is the inability of firemen to out an electric vehicle fire. If you doubt me on that, go research it. So I recently posed some questions to the Premier on Cayman News Service on an article that they had there, and I'll share these questions with you, and you can go do some research on these as well, because these are the answers that we need to ask. These are the questions we need to ask to get the answers to. As our government goes running down the street, screaming the place down about climate change and the need to convert to electric vehicles. Before I ask those questions, so let me just point out something to you. Carbon dioxide is necessary for the continued existence of human beings. Carbon dioxide is consumed by the trees who give us back oxygen. Remove the carbon dioxide and you will kill the trees. The questions I posed for the Premier were, and this is based on the premise that climate change is real. What is the Cayman Islands' contribution percentage to climate change? How will we dispose of these EV vehicles? How much does it cost to replace an EV battery? How much diesel does it take to charge an EV battery? How are these EV batteries made and from what mineral? What is the labor force and work conditions for workers mining that mineral? How are EV fires extinguished? What is the escape or rescue rates for persons caught in EV fires? Has the fire department's input been sought on this decision? What efforts to reduce the largest contributor to climate change, the clearing of trees, which results in continuously less carbon dioxide being recycled as oxygen? There is an obvious increase in glass and concrete plus asphalt in the Cayman Islands. What studies have been conducted on the climate impact of these products, and these products coupled with the wanton destruction of trees? Mangroves are being depleted acres at a time. What is being done to stop the destruction of mangroves, which have a protective function against waves and flooding activity? Those are very sensible questions, and the Premier, the Minister for Home Affairs, all of the government who's jumping on this bandwagon called climate change should provide some answers to those questions. Trust me when I tell you I didn't just ask those questions because I had nothing else to do. I asked those questions because I know their answers. And there's nothing good in electric vehicles when you're talking about you want to address climate change. That's a farce. What would be good for prisoners is if they had a healthy, safe, humane environment to live in, because the government has placed them in Northward to live for a certain period of time, and they are human beings. Electric vehicles is not a good purchase. Perhaps some comfortable mattresses, maybe some air-conditioned units. Northward, if I'm not mistaken, was built in 1982. We still don't have air-conditioned cells, but we don't want to be outside in the heat and in the humidity, but we think it's okay that other human beings should be subjected to that simply because they are prisoners? That's just outrightly wicked. Be sure to join us for the next edition of A Good Show. Remember, you can listen in on Big Fish 95.5 FM on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 12 noon, or you can watch us on Cayman Live TV, channel 33 on Logic at 7 p.m. on Sundays and again at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Thank you very much for joining us for A Good Show. This segment of A Good Show was brought to you by H. Philip Ebanks Law. You can visit H. Philip Ebanks Law at philipebankslaw.com. For all of your legal needs, contact H. Philip Ebanks 749-8082 or philipebankslaw.com. Thank you, H. Philip Ebanks Law, for sponsoring A Good Show.